Your construction is unauthorized. This dock violates multiple regulations regarding lakeside structures. This signed and stamped permit says otherwise.
Looks like I win.
At 4:27 a.m. on May 3, 2024, a police flashlight sliced through my bedroom window like a knife, and I woke up to cold air and a pounding on my front door. My coffee was still a bitter smell in the machine when I stumbled outside in socks, and 2 officers asked why I was trespassing on my own dock. Down by the water, I could hear it. Metal clanging. A saw whining. And the sharp, hot stink of fresh asphalt from a truck parked near the shoreline, like someone was paving my piece away in the dark. I walked to the lake and almost choked. My dock had a brand new wooden ramp bolted onto it, angled like a giant tongue, leading from the HOA's little community path straight onto my private boards. And right in the middle of it, they had posted a laminated sign with rules in bold. No fishing. No chairs. No loitering. Like my dock was a public park now. That's when I realized what this fight was about, and I said it out loud because it felt unreal. HOA built a ramp onto my dock without asking and posted rules. Then I pulled the permit. The officer looked at the sign, looked at me, and said, "Sir, do you own this dock?" I said, "Yes. And I also own my patience, and it's running out." At 9 a.m. the same morning, I went to the HOA office, still smelling lake water and sawdust, and tried to be normal about it. I asked for the board president, Karen, the one who talks in a smile like she's chewing glass. She didn't invite me in. She stood in the doorway holding a tumbler like it was a badge. I said, "You built onto my dock." She said, "It's an access improvement. For the community." I said, "You didn't ask." She said, "We posted rules for your safety." Then she leaned closer and whispered, "Don't make this ugly." Behind her, I saw 2 neighbors in the hallway, silent, eyes down, like kids in trouble. Later, one of them texted me, "Don't fight them. They'll target you." That message hit harder than the bolts in my dock. So I tried the polite way first. I emailed. I called. I showed up at the next meeting on May 7, 2024, at 7 p.m., with calm words ready. Karen cut me off mid-sentence and said, "You're being selfish." Someone snickered, but it wasn't the board. It was the homeowners in the back, the ones who were tired of being pushed around. Still, the board voted without even looking at me. "Ramp stays," they said. Then Karen added, "We've had complaints about you. Noise. Safety. Trespass." That last word made my stomach drop, because I knew what she was doing. She was building a story, not a ramp. That night, I drew my line in the sand. No yelling. No threats. No dumb stunts. I promised myself I would use proper channels only, because the law hits harder than any tantrum. I started collecting everything like a boring, angry librarian. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. I took clear shots of the bolts drilled into my boards, the sign, the ramp angle, the HOA truck plates. I recorded every time someone stepped onto my dock and acted like it was theirs. I wrote down dates and times in thick black marker. Timeline item 1 April 5 at 4:27 a.m. false trespass call. Then I added more, like May 3 at 4:27 a.m. same thing, different officer. My friend, who works in city admin, told me one simple truth that made Karen's little game feel less scary: patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. On May 10, 2024, I filed a public records request with the city, because if they built a structure over water, there had to be permits. Or at least a paper trail. 2 weeks later, the clerk slid a packet across the counter like it weighed a ton. The file landed with 63 pages. I flipped through it right there, my fingers shaking, and I almost laughed. There was an application from the HOA for shoreline improvements, but the drawings didn't match what they built. And the address listed for the construction site was mine. My dock. My parcel number. Like they had borrowed my identity the way they borrowed my boards. There was also a note from the permitting office that said approval was pending inspection and property owner consent. Consent. The thing Karen never asked for. I made copies, highlighted the good parts, and called for an inspection like I was ordering pizza. The payoff came fast, and it came in public, which was perfect for Karen because she loves an audience. On May 28, 2024, at 3:15 p.m., the city inspector showed up in a white truck, and so did Karen, acting like she had been invited by the universe. She marched down the path in her sunglasses, chirping about community access and safety. The inspector stopped at the ramp, crouched, and tapped the bolts with a pen. He asked, "Where is the property owner consent form?" Karen smiled and said, "We're the HOA." He said, "That's not an answer." Then he looked at me and asked, "Are you the property owner?" I said, "Yes, and I did not consent." The inspector's face changed like a switch flipped. He pulled out a red tag, slapped it on the ramp, and said, "Stop work order. Unpermitted structure. Possible encroachment." Karen's smile broke. She sputtered, "This is ridiculous." The inspector said, "Ma'am, you used a private address on a public form. That's serious." And behind her, 3 neighbors had their phones out, filming like it was a season finale. By the next HOA meeting on June 3, 2024, the video was everywhere in our little lake group chat, and strangers were laughing at Karen's ramp rules like it was a meme. People showed up early just to watch. Karen tried to take control, but the room was buzzing. I walked in with my binder and the city packet, and you could feel the air change. I didn't shout. I didn't insult her. I just set the paperwork on the table and said, "Here are the permits you claimed you had. Here's the part where you needed my consent. Here's the stop work order." Someone in the back whispered, "Got her." Karen snapped, "He's harassing the board." That's when the officer from the May 3rd call stood up near the door, because yes, he was there, and he said, "Ma'am, we've been called out to this address twice for trespass. This homeowner owns the dock. The inspector's report is clear." The room made this sound, half gasp, half laugh, and Karen's face went the color of bad lunch meat. After that, peace came back in a way I didn't expect. The ramp was removed within 48 hours, and the HOA paid for repairs and a new set of dock boards, which came to $3,800, plus a fine from the city that Karen tried to blame on confusion. The board had to vote on a policy that said they can't touch private property without written consent, and the neighbors who used to look down started looking up. One older guy brought me a plate of cookies and said, "Thanks for standing up." My dock felt like mine again. The water sounded soft at night, not like saws and clanging metal. Karen didn't wave anymore, but she did stop calling the police. And that was the funniest rule change of all. Please follow for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.